Good evening. We are Boomer Rex tonight, and we have a fabulous show lined up for you. It's Boomer versus Millennial in a generational smackdown for the ages, literally. Tonight, we're going to share jokes back and forth, then break them down. It's all about the 3 F's tonight. Some are fun, some are fact, and some are fail. All right, so let's open it up. I have Mr. Boomer Rex himself with us tonight.
Boomer Rex, nightly news, feel the burn.
And Asshole Millennial here.
Hi.
And RisenLadyHeathen, also a millennial. So let's get into this. Joke number
two
one.
assholes and a boomer.
Yeah, Boomer hit us.
All right, so I've got your standard millennial joke. This is the only one I found that was actually funny.
Oh,
Right?
Interesting.
So what do you call a bird that likes avocado toast?
I don't know. What do you call it?
A millennial falcon.
Oh.
Not all.
Oh.
All right.
All right.
So but let's go, while we're on that millennial thing, the avocado toast thing. Right, this is far more typical. So, Trump shutting down the border would be the best thing ever for millennials. I mean, once the avocado market dries up, they can finally pay off their student loans and buy a house.
Ah.
So
All right.
that avocado toast thing is so totally overworked.
Well, yeah, and so let's break down the avocado toast thing. I was going to do a couple of jokes and then get to that, but
right.
So let's get into it. So in 2019,
Well, you asked me to do avocado toast.
Yes.
I did avocado
Here's why.
toast.
no, you did.
Cool.
In 2019, a study was found that 28% of people under 30 loved avocados, but 35% of people over 30 loved avocados. So that means it's more Gen Xers and Boomers that eat avocados than millennials. This lie actually began with a millionaire from Australia who did a 60-minute
Seriously?
He's a
interview
mining scumbag.
and
Oh my
said,
God.
this is what he said, and I quote, "When I was trying to buy my first home, I wasn't trying to buy smashed avocado for $19 and 4 coffees at $4 each." Now, here's my question. Where the fuck were you going to buy $19 avocado toast? Like, even in America, the people who did this research
It's
could
national
not
shipping.
find
Oh.
a price that high at even downtown LA, like your most expensive place you could possibly ever think that you would pay to buy avocado toast. It was about $15, which, yeah, it's only a $4 difference, but $4 is a big difference to a lot of
$15 is an
millennials.
idiotic price for toast.
Agreed.
Okay.
But I'm saying this is like Hollywood type prices, right? So this is going to the fanciest, schmanciest corner bistro you could possibly find, and you're going
Or
to pay
what's
about
the
$15.
scumbaggery Amazon bot? Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's, every time we take our eye off them.
Oh yeah.
Because they were the ones who were selling $15 asparagus water.
Asparagus water.
They were figuring the price or the weight of all of their vegetables
Uh-huh.
with the water.
Oh, great.
Yeah, because they keep them in water.
Okay.
Yep.
So they're overcharging people by
I can believe that.
ridiculous.
Or not right. Their price on the thing didn't represent the price at the.
All
What
right.
you got at the...
Asshole, would you like to be the one to give our first boomer joke?
Maybe.
Is there anything funny about boomers?
All of the things.
Okay, boomer. Let's start there.
How do boomers change the light bulb?
Don't know.
They don't. They just keep talking about how great the old ones were.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Freedom bulb.
exactly. And that's what
Oh
that's
my
what made that
God.
one stick out. Is actually funny to me
Yeah.
as compared to. And again, the freedom bulbs is an entire marketing thing, and well done,
Oh, yeah.
Phillips and whoever else cashed in on that. It's scumbaggery of the first order, but that's where we decided to let capitalism go because we're really, really dumb as a group. Like,
No, and I'm sorry. If you believe in freedom bulbs, I'm more than happy to let you pay 3 times what they're worth, and
That is the free
and then
market.
pay
I-
3 times, 7 times as much for the electricity to run them.
Yeah.
Suits me fine. And
All
they
right.
have an average lifetime of 2,500 hours or whatever it is.
So here's my first boomer joke. Fun statistics for adults. Boomer. When I was a kid, I had no help with college tuition. I was hardworking and I paid it all myself. Statistics.
Yeah.
Annual tuition for Yale in 1970 was $2,550. Annual tuition for Yale in 2014 was $45,800. Minimum wage in 1970 was $1.45. Minimum wage in 2014 is $7.25. The daily hours at minimum wage needed to pay for tuition in 1970 was 4.8. To do the same in 2014 was 17.3 hours a day. That's a big difference.
Yeah,
So,
fairly big.
this is self-explanatory. I don't feel like I need to explain this. And again, I don't think this is a joke. I think this is fact, right? This is just
No,
straight up.
Yale and There's no point in going to either Yale or Harvard if you don't have $20,000 to spend on social functions. It is one of the oldest social networks in existence. But if you can't entertain them, you won't get to work for their sons and daughters.
So your actual tuition is $65,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I, when I was going to the university, you paid for a full-time load, right? Which was, I think, $260. And then you took as many classes as you want. So I routinely took 22, 23 hours for $260 a semester and was perfectly happy.
Yeah.
So today
Not $1,000 a semester for books?
For old, outdated books with bad information that they just rewrite every year, so you have to buy the new one.
Germany.
No, my university bookstore was actually pretty good. They let you trade them in, right?
Yeah.
And then they'd sell them again. And so if you knew what you were going to take, right, and you got down there early,
Yeah.
you could fan through the book, right, until you found one that had all the key stuff outlined in yellow highlighter, right? And now I always bought those books. And of course, my worst experience ever. So I'm taking Anthropology 102 because I need the credit in that area. And I've been going along and not paying a lot of attention to the class. And every time I was coming up on an exam, I would take out the book and I would just review the highlighted stuff. And that worked great up until midterm. And so I'm getting ready for my finals. And I open the book and I turn the page and the yellow highlighting stopped.
No.
Whoever it was who had the book dropped after me.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh my God. Oh, crap. So I spent the night reading the chapters. Right?
Learning Anthropology 102.
Yeah. Damn it. Oh, so sad. But anyway,
That's what you get.
but those were typically about 1/3 the price of a new book, and they were worth more. So if you got there early enough, right? That was the whole point.
My Russian language course was the only one that didn't change books year to year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. No, we changed books every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
No,
Everyone I know, I have been shocked because it is like $1,000 a semester for books alone.
Oh, yeah, books are
it can.
And that's at community college. That's
Yeah.
No, these books are actually huge scams.
yeah.
They really, really are. If you look into them, if
It's
you look
made by a
into
corporation.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're scammy
The big
as
machine
fuck.
shits them out.
And yeah, no.
They're
No,
not
and
good,
my
but it's part of
experience
the game.
was that you were frequently told to buy a book, one of whose authors was the clown who was teaching the course, right? And in most cases, there were better books. But no, I was fortunate enough to come through at a time when, and again, I was hard science, physics, right? There are a number of staple books that are always used.
Right.
And in fact, some of them are still used because they present the topic in an orderly, learnable fashion.
Right.
Which I have noticed, the good ways of explaining the field, well, those got taken by the first people who wrote books in the area.
Right.
And the newer books tend to be opaque, arcane.
Esoteric.
Yeah, on several occasions, I went back to the older books learned the subject and never bothered to crack the new one.
No, and I've had friends who were told to buy books for classes or whatever, and then show up to the class
And they never
open the book.
Yep.
So you're out $350 for absolutely no, or some of them are even more, $600. You can spend a lot of money on some of these books when you get into the higher classes. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, so let's move along with this. I've got another joke here. I love baby boomers who say kids don't even know how to write cursive in a negative way, like, okay, grandma, you can't even turn your laptop on without getting 6 viruses and wiring half of your retirement money to a Nigerian prince.
See, I don't know. All of my boomers are tech literate.
Well, that's true too. I have the same thing. My mom is very well. She probably knows more about computers. Well, at least writing prompts in computers and such like that than I do. But when it comes to the internet, she's just oblivious. I've had to explain to her multiple times how to click on a YouTube link just to get somewhere. So it's interesting how she could be so good with computers when it comes to her job, but anything outside of that small thing,
humans only learn computers what they do on them.
Yeah.
So in a similar vein, right? And that was a common thread, right? And as you went through these, you realized what you were getting was really the second generation of millennial and boomer jokes.
Yeah.
Right. So the millennial says, student debt is crippling our generation, which is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. And then the person who types with their index fingers and can't open a PDF says, well, I bought my house with 3 buttons and a carton of Camels in 1974.
And that one's, I love those ones.
true.
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
That's funny and
And the
fun
exaggeration makes it better, right? That it's you can tell it's someone who saw this and
Yeah, no, I was being pursued by TRW at one point, and the salary offering was quite generous. And so I asked the only question that mattered. We were sitting at dinner in my house in Seattle, and I said to the hiring authority, I said, look around, right? Am I going to live like this in El Segundo? And he looked around and he said, no, unless you're willing to drive for an hour. And I said, well, then why would I come to work for you?
Right.
And he said, well, most families learn to live in a smaller house and so forth. And I said, we have kids, right?
Yeah, you need
And
space.
it was ridiculous. And then I was curious, and I said, because I'd been to his house, which was very nice, on a hill overlooking Manhattan Beach.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And I said,
Talk the boss.
I said, for instance, like your house, if I wanted to buy your house, and he said, my grandmother bought that house and I inherited that house. And he said, if you wanted to buy that house today, you're talking $3.5 million based on the last offer I got. No, he had
I
a
almost
perfectly,
choked on that one.
Yeah. Nope.
he had a 2-story house, probably all told, probably around 3,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it was a nice house. And it was on 1.5 acres on a hilltop, literally overlooking Manhattan Beach. And as he said, he had people drive up the driveway and offer $3.5 million. So
Yeah.
Wow.
No, my first wife's grandmother's house in whichever of the Hamptons
yeah,
bought in 1940 something.
right, for $3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my parents' first house in Albuquerque, that sold for, I think it was $11,000. Right, we just sold that for $200,000 in a distressed state.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that going back to, types with their index finger and can't rotate a PDF.
Yeah.
I said, I'm sorry, I'm not offended by that. I have no heartburn at all saying, God damn it, come here and show me how this works.
No, and that's the thing is you've never been embarrassed to ask your question because you enjoy learning.
Yeah.
And that's, if nothing else, that's
And I'll be able to rotate the damn PDF the next time.
Exactly.
And I never had any trouble rotating
I know.
PDF.
That's where some of these just seem so odd.
I always thought view, rotate was pretty damned obvious.
Yeah.
So.
Especially if you have been using them for any length of time.
Right.
Well, yeah, no matter how lost you are, first of all, there's probably a help key.
Mm-hmm.
And
Or
second,
Google it. YouTube will show
Oh,
you how to
absolutely.
do anything you want to do. Do you know how I produce this show, folks? YouTube. Thank you, YouTube people who post how to do audio. I
Who will
appreciate
teach me how to do
you.
anything I want for free.
Yeah.
yeah, but again,
Pay us, YouTube.
it's Microsoft standard. It's got a ribbon. Go explore the ribbon and see
Yeah.
what you can do.
No, I had a friend
YouTube is
who was,
amazing. Yeah.
I guess, probably a boomer,
Yeah.
but or whatever was right under that. And nearly tech illiterate, right? Had never had to use computers since early '90s, maybe late '80s, right? And just hunt and peck, printing forms and
Computers,
stuff.
late 80s.
And
Okay, so
no email, no nothing,
Yeah.
no internet beyond basic YouTubing. But again, once you have the YouTube, last time we talked, I was getting it all done, sending emails like a boss.
yeah,
Right, but it just had an out in the field job and never needed to send an
No,
email.
absolutely.
No, and my favorite
It's
part
acquire
about
the things or you're dead.
No, right, and my favorite thing about going to YouTube to find information is if one link, like if one thing doesn't show you the way you need to understand,
next one will.
You can
Yeah.
find another one that will.
Yeah.
That only works for me if it's a really technical thing. I will not go to YouTube for news. I'm
oh,
probably
hell
just
no.
like whateverist against YouTube, metist.
Well, no, and what you're gonna find on YouTube is like us, opinion pieces. And we don't look for opinion pieces since we're trying to give you our opinions.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was about to say, all that crap on YouTube.
Oh shit, we're one of them.
No, but I didn't get there. It's all written in crayon in all caps.
Crayons are tasty.
Yeah.
Tasty.
So yeah, that's probably us too. So.
All right, so I've got one. Baby boomers blame millennials for everything, but who put carpets over all of the hardwood floors, Patricia?
I saw that one and laughed.
I know.
So the fun thing about this one is this is a fun joke, but it's wrong. This is fiction. This is not real.
What?
So this isn't a boomer thing, okay? Boomers didn't put carpet and vinyl flooring because it's not just carpet, it's vinyl flooring too. Their parents did. So this was happening, this trend started in the 50s and 60s when boomers were still kids. So it wasn't really the boomers.
The 80s were still marketing wall-to-wall carpet, but that's because it's the
But they
boomers
weren't having
trying to live up.
hardwood under it. They were just putting carpet down. So the reason for this was that hardwood floors used to be really hard to keep up. They needed to be stripped and re-waxed every couple times a year. Like, could you imagine having that much work? So people decided to put no wax vinyl or carpet because it was easier to clean and
I
upkeep.
forgot the no wax vinyl. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That was a big.
That was a big thing. Yep.
Never had to buff it.
So this is fun, but it's fiction.
I've never torn up vinyl. I have ever torn up carpet and
Yeah.
taken it back to the wood floor.
Yeah. So I got a fun one for you here. Millennials are idiots, says the generation that made a millionaire out of the creator of the pet rock. Now, this statement is just fun, but it's also
You think
fact.
Boomers bought the pet rock?
In 1975, the trend that lasted about 6 months made Gray Ross DeHaal a millionaire.
One of the
What makes you think boomers were buying pet rocks?
What was happening in 73?
1975.
In 1975?
Yeah, you were buying them for your kids. They were being bought for the Gen Xers.
Okay, I'll buy that. Okay.
and the one of the
In 1975, we had dogs, right?
One of
and
the-
training wheels for kids.
Yes.
one of the antediluvian Republicans made all of his really spooky amount of money, maybe Orrin Hatch, on ant pattern underwear called "Ants in My Pants."
That's amazing.
Fucking 70s were
I
weird.
want a pair. That sounds phenomenal.
I just want a time machine to go watch America be as coked out as she ever was. Because like the 80s and like forward, it gets kind of methy.
No. If I could go back in time, I would buy all the
always
Jenkos.
methy.
All the Jenkos jeans because those were
You're never going to
amazing.
get it clean and straight. It's always methy.
Yeah. No, but America has gone from being coked out America thinking, pick a thing. What was the one where we were going to airdrop the gay chemicals on people?
Oh boy.
And then the Iraqis, and they'd be ashamed, or the crypto fascist weirdness of wherever the CIA went in the late 40s, early 50s.
Just insane. Let me see if I can find one. Oh, here we go. This one's classic.
Ooh.
I love it.
I love a classic.
In fact, I've got two. You'll have to listen to
okay.
both of them.
Double them up.
So, it's the boomer. Millennials want open office spaces. So, no, we want to be compensated for our labor. So, no, you just want beanbags. And the second,
Fair.
the boomer says nothing in life is free. And then says, this job doesn't pay money, it pays an experience.
Oh no, that was a millennial joke. You're not allowed to steal my jokes. I had that one written down.
No, that's a boomer joke.
Oh, that's dumb.
Again, a bunch of these boomer versus millennial.
Tread mildly differently.
You can see
No,
the
because I
millennials
literally
came
have
back.
that exact same joke.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
comment,
sure you
and
had the
subscribe,
same
the
joke.
interwebs.
Yeah, like, comment, and
We're telling
subscribe.
jokes and everything.
Okay.
And she's apparently looked up the history of vinyl flooring. That shit's in there
But
forever.
again,
No,
it was-
I wasn't kidding when I said I want to look up the history of where these came from and kind of break it down for people so that both boomers and millennials can understand that it's not us. We're not mad at each other. There's other players involved
We're
here.
trying very hard to keep us
Exactly.
from recognizing that we have been treated very similarly. And we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
and let me
my tinfoil hat bit at the end.
let me tell this one that it falls flat, okay?
Okay.
But this is something that I think is important for people to understand. So it's the definition of millennial. Millennial is a noun. A straw man created by boomers to help them disavow the horrifying effect that their lifelong selfishness and fiscal irresponsibility have had on the world. Now, Business Insider did an article written by Lynette Lopez called How Baby Boomers Became the Most Selfish Generation. She talks about how over the last 40 years, the government hasn't done much to invest in the future, cutting taxes instead of putting money into education, shutting down the government several times instead of investing in infrastructure. And she discusses in depth where these things all came from and why they were allowed to happen. I didn't want to go into the detail because we've got a lot going on tonight, but
Yeah, because there's a couple of those I want to jump in on,
this
like
could be
education.
argued both ways, right?
Well, no, and it's important to recognize that the boomers went along with this for very specific reasons. If you go back and you look at the history starting in about 1960, right, what you'll see is this endless series of attacks on unions, destruction of pension systems, just over and over again. The boomers are not the ones who stole everything.
No.
The boomers are the first generation who were stolen from.
Agree.
Now, I'm a wildly fortunate boomer, and I don't have that problem, but thank God, but it was entirely accidental, right? And I say, well, I worked hard and so forth. Yeah, but I was lucky as hell too, right? Because I chose the right field, right? I moved at the right time, right? Made money on real estate because we bought at the bottom and sold at the top. I mean, a bunch of things that we didn't have any control over. We were just lucky.
And the pachinko machine starts well before then.
Well,
You gave a sentence answer that determined about you going to officers candidate school, which affected your lifetime view. That you were taught a very specific style of leadership that is not what corporate America rewards now.
No, not at all. At the lower levels, it's still effective, right? That I use the same.
It's always been force protection.
I'm leader, small unit infantry, right? That's what I was trained as. That's what I am, and it works.
Yes.
And it still works. And I hope the people who work with me agree. But in any case,
Squirrels.
So I've got one more, and then we'll go back to you because I have a bunch, so I'm trying to stuff them in between yours. Boomer. Millennials killed department stores. Millennial, you killed the polar bears, but right, my deepest apologies to JCPenney. Now, the real problem here is that millionaires spent all kinds of money to stop any movement to fix the climate, and they spread false information.
absolutely.
To the boomers. So this
Once
is...
again, the perfect description of Fox News.
Yep.
This is billionaires
Fox News.
paying millionaires to tell you that brown people are the problem.
Right.
But no, hundreds of millions of dollars Exxon spent lobbying the high reliance.
Yep.
They still are.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
but no, it's
Turns out the petrochemical companies had the largest delegation in Glasgow
yeah,
by a factor of about 2.
yeah.
So,
Well, as Abramoff said, you don't need to capture the senator; you capture their chief of staff. What a chief of staff in Washington D.C. wants costs a fraction of what a senator wants,
Yeah.
and the chief of staff or whatever, a senior aide,
Is the
determines who
gatekeeper.
gets in the room.
Yep.
And once you're in the room,
Well, I mean, come on, guys, look at who we've got sitting there.
Sullivan and Cromwell, they did it all.
Mm-hmm.
Put fluoride in your waters.
All right, hit us with your next one, Mr. Boomer Rex.
Oh, well, the standard thing, boomers are upset about being called boomers. I don't think so, but anyway. But you can say the same thing back to them, right? Which is, it's just words. They can't hurt you.
Oh, God,
Which,
yeah.
of course, was exactly what they
Sticks
said
and
to the
stones may
millennials.
break your
Except-
bones, but names will never hurt you. That
But
was
they
drilled
did.
into my brain as a child.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
part of the attack on millennials was intentional,
Right.
and it was paid for.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if you
People
go back,
paid a
you
lot
will
of money
find-
for this.
Absolutely. And again, you buy the data from Facebook, right? And you simply target what you want to target are boomers who aren't going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
You tell them
50%
how bad
have
the
less than $10,000 set aside.
sorry, how many?
50%
50%.
of boomers.
15 or 50.
50% have less than $10,000 set aside for retirement,
Yep.
which is no money set aside for retirement.
Again, they were the first generation who was well and truly screwed. That they came up in a
That
system
pensions
that was
evaporated
designed,
around them.
they were designed for industrial pensions. You would spend your life working for a company and then, right?
Ma Bell was going to take care of you.
Absolutely. And so we virtually did away with pensions,
Yep.
right? And the
That was the
other
disinvestment.
structures
Yep.
were just beginning,
Yep.
right?
Well, and that was when the panic on the deficits and the debt started.
Oh, yeah.
So that we didn't have to pay, right? We shouldn't pay for these cities that had been run poorly. And no, they needed the standard investment that pensions need.
Well, and the other problem is that boomers are going to live longer than the people coming after them, and they're going to be sicker at the
Well,
end of their
certainly
lives,
that,
and they're
yes.
going to rack up more health
This-
problems
This is-
and more health related money, is going to be lost. So the concept that a lot of people have is that the boomers are eventually going to pass down their wealth, but there's going to be
Right
nothing
through that,
left
that doctor.
by the time the millennial or the boomers pass on to
Yeah,
Gen
yeah.
Xers,
Okay.
millennials,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Gen
yeah.
Zers,
Boomers,
there's
hey.
nothing left.
Here's something you can actually do,
Are we going to do a death
right?
panel for him right
We're
now?
spent. Yeah, we are.
I know.
Okay.
But I just wanted to make it spooky. We should have done this at Halloween.
Oh, bite me. No, we have set up a system which spends half of what you will spend on healthcare in your lifetime
Total lifetime.
in the last 30 days of life.
Yep.
This is idiotic.
You mean the
Guys.
30 days where you will not get better enough to go outside, have a cigarette, say, give someone a last hug, whatever you, right, unfinished business shit, you're not going to get better. It's just going to be
Yeah.
30 days of
And you're not
removal.
going to go outside and sit in the sunshine,
Yeah,
right? You're going to lie in your bed attached to a ventilator.
yeah.
And then they're going to ask your family at some point, what do we want to do? And this will be after, you can time it. It'll be after you have spent your lifetime benefit, right? And now they need to get rid of you because they know your family's not going to pay.
Yeah.
$40,000 a day for a ventilator? Yeah.
Yeah, we recently lost a friend, and they kept him on that ventilator well after he should have been removed from it because he was brain dead.
Yep.
And it was just ridiculous. But
So the question remains, right, is, and I'll say it right now, the question you ask the doctor is, what are the chances he's going to get better, that he's going to be out of here and, maybe he's going to be in a wheelchair, but can he sit in the sunshine and tell stories? And if the answer to that question is no, that's not happening,
pull the goddamn
pull the
plug.
fucking plug and walk away.
It's the same deal you make with any pet. We're
Yeah.
going to rock it all the way to the bottom. We're going to
Well,
smoke
right
this
until you
all
are
the way
not
down to
having
the
fun
filter.
anymore.
But when you aren't getting up, when you're not enjoying it, then no. Shuffle off. This mortal coil, the monkey, will meet up at the corn dog place.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And do it the right way.
Yeah.
But did you get the nonsense he won about bombing things?
I don't
I lost one.
know.
I'm feeling so bad
There was
about
just a joke
this.
earlier that was basically saying we should name each generation after the horrors
I
and
didn't
war
write that one
crimes
down.
they committed.
Yeah, I didn't write that
And
one
then it
down.
proceeded to
That
list
was
a bunch of things that, funny enough, the generation you're talking about wasn't in charge.
No, that was the silent generation.
And
for
then,
some of those.
oddly enough, you didn't mention any of the things that, by your standard, millennials
did.
would have done.
Yep.
Like all that white phosphorus in Fallujah. And
Yep.
again, Fallujah's an odd fucking question.
To go back to healthcare, I chose one
Yes.
I thought was particularly appropriate. This is my grandpa told me, you millennials are too dependent on technology. So I unplugged his life support.
I will say that's true because my phone is being bad tonight and won't turn on. So all of my preparedness that I was gonna just improvise on my phone because I'm wicked
Well,
smart.
that's sad.
Yeah.
Well,
I've been having to crib off Risen's homework.
yeah. Okay, so I've got one, and again, this one is more funny. Baby boomers talking to we millennials. The world is dangerous. There are people out there waiting to hurt you. Stay inside. Baby boomers. Kids these days are lazy. They don't go outside. They don't exercise. What's wrong with this generation? Pokemon Go comes out. Baby boomers. Why are all these millennials outside? What are they doing in my park? I don't like this. No,
Absolutely.
I'd say this is both fact in the point of yes, Pokemon Go came out, and then all of a sudden all the boomers were like, "Oh my God, there's people in the park, call the cops!" Like that happened.
It did happen.
It did happen. So this is real, but it's also fun.
I cannot. I'm
Fact
sorry.
and fun.
I've lived a charmed life, right? But I do not understand what boomers are afraid of.
No.
And I have boomer friends who will not fly because they're afraid of terrorists. And you sit there and go, you're more likely to be hit by an asteroid than to be killed by terrorists on an airplane. What
You
the hell
probably
is
get
your
bit by a
problem?
shark long before you're
This
going to get
may
killed
just
by
be
terror.
Far more, especially at the boomer's age, you're far more likely to die driving to the grocery store than you are flying on an airplane. This is
God, yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they're terrified. And they do. They hide in their hand. COVID made it worse.
Yes.
And I recognize my feelings on COVID, right? When somebody gets within 6 feet of me, I have a tendency to step away and go, unclean. I just,
No,
I make you go to
Um,
the store sometimes.
yeah.
yeah.
No, desocializing would not be good to humans. You need to go outside. We're going to get back to normal one way or the other. I guarantee.
Someday. Yep.
Fucking pretty quick. So take effective action if you're in charge. But
Go get the vaccine.
yes,
Here's another
And
fun
then
one.
get your booster when you're due. Go ahead.
Boomer, why are millennials so obsessed with food? Millennial, need it to live. Next question.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm going to come back at you on that one. There is a thing at work here. Again, when I was being pursued by TRW, which would have been fun, right? They were doing some interesting things that I would have enjoyed working on, but I wasn't living in Los Angeles. So anyway, so we're walking through the parking lot. We're coming back from lunch, and I'm looking at the cars in TRW's parking lot. TRW is now Northrop Grumman, right? But anyway, TRW, back when it was the Tomorrow Company. God damn, that was a nice place to visit. We're walking through the parking lot, and I'm going, man, there is exotica in this. There's a Ferrari over there. There are 2 Lamborghinis. There, oh my God. And I said, how much do you pay your executive leadership? And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, that the 2 Lamborghinis. He said, oh no, those belong to young engineers. And I said, what? And he said, it's really simple. He said, they can't afford a house. So they go and they find a 1-bedroom apartment, right? They keep the rent down on the apartment. And then they have all this excess money they can't spend on a house. So they spend it on a car.
Yep.
Well, that's the same thing it's the same thing that functionally the avocado toast.
Right.
If you're living in a cheap apartment, right, you will have excess, right? When I was in graduate school, right, we used to go out to dinner, 3 or 4 times a week because until we had kids,
Ruiner.
No, because we had excess money,
Mm-hmm.
right? That we weren't, and then we bought a house, and then all of that shit stopped.
So, once your accounting never has a house in it, you have all
You
of that
have some
extra money.
disposable income.
Yeah.
Well, and that's true for, kind of people on the higher end of the pay scale.
Oh, yeah.
But for people on the lower end, millennials tend to spend, it's like kind of a rule. You should only spend 30% of
Yeah.
the amount of money you bring in.
Yeah.
Millennials on average, and this, I'm sure it's a lot higher for people even poorer, but on average, millennials are spending 40%
Yeah.
of their income. And for me, it was much higher than that. I don't even want to do the math on that. It was retarded. And the problem is that my rent was going up at an average of $100 to $200 a month per year.
So, normal rate.
And then what I was getting paid was not going up that much. So, we have a real problem in the system right now where, rent and all this stuff is outpacing because people refuse to raise minimum wage.
Have minimum wage.
Or less, more so even. It's about a third of what boomers and when they were young enjoyed.
Oh yeah. No, it's
And that was the numbers. We went through those numbers a few episodes ago, and
right.
it's
But it
about a
should be
third.
$22 an hour, and it is 7 something. Right. So there's kind of a factor of 3 missing there.
Yeah, there's a lot of money missing there.
Oh, you might think about a general strike. That would wake them up pretty quick.
So,
Let's see, what have I got? I had another good one.
9.
Oh, well, we'll go back to healthcare for a second. It's you millennials and your obsession with public healthcare. Back in my day, we just died. And of course,
But you're all still alive. I
Yeah,
think
you're
you're missing
still
a
here.
very important step here, folks.
Well, and part of actually one of the previous ones, right, the OK Boomer thing, right? That one became partially a problem. Because as we know, when I was coming up, 50 was the border of unemployable. That you were about to need health care at numbers that didn't make you a good risk unless you had a odd skill. And that number has gone down. It's hovering around 47 now, which is part of my tinfoil hat crazy that comes at the end.
oh, you've got more. Okay, great. No, and that we just died. Part of that was hospitals were more realistic about what kind of care.
We had only the barest amount of the science.
Well, people
No,
didn't.
it was more than that. It was that they didn't leave people on ventilators for 45 days and so forth.
And
Because it
we
wasn't
shouldn't
profitable.
be doing that, folks.
No, we shouldn't. Now it's profitable.
If
Now
you're
they
brain
do
dead,
it.
you're brain dead. There's no coming back from that. I don't care about the 5 people that may have in a 1 in a trillion
None of them.
case.
Might
You
have
know
been
what I'm saying?
misdiagnosed as brain dead.
Yes. Yeah, no. If you're brain dead, you're brain dead. You're gone.
Kind of sort of
Right.
check it twice. Like check it one day, check it the next day. If it's still brain dead, just be done with it.
And look at the medications that are being dispensed to see if any of those suppress neural activity.
I hadn't thought of that.
The only reason I knew about it was a premature baby who was assessed as brain dead, and somebody finally said, I've forgotten what the sedative was, but was being given a sedative, and as soon as they stopped giving him the sedative, they weren't brain dead anymore.
Interesting.
So, and survived. So,
All right, so pay attention to the medications, first of all. Second of all, if you're brain dead, you're brain dead.
right.
Minus certain medications.
Oh, I love this one. How many millennials does it take to change a light bulb? I don't know. The baby boomer who has that job can't retire because they never saved anything. And millennials all have LED lights.
That one's pretty good.
That is good.
All right,
No,
I got
but
the
it comes back to the
Yeah.
problem, right? Which is the boomers aren't leaving, and the reason they aren't leaving is they can't afford to retire because they were the first generation to get
Yep.
screwed.
Yep.
So
No, and there's an entire lifetime of all of the words I have are really rude programming, indoctrination, zeitgeist that says even if you were screwed, shut up about it. but the scale is
And
so different.
Put your
than
nose back on the grind
the
wheel.
scale is so different than anything comparable. No, there really isn't one. No one had ever really robbed a whole ass country all at once.
Yep, and they really have.
Or no one had ever robbed here. I
And
mean,
it
yeah,
was
we've done that to
absolutely-
Argentina a couple of times for fun, but that was
Okay.
individual hedge funds and George Soros, a boogeyman of the right.
Anyway, it's I'm sorry, if you've worked all your life and you don't have enough to retire, then the country's fucked up. It's not you,
Yeah.
right?
No, like, don't feel bad if you're struggling, because other people are struggling too. And I think the real thing that we want to get across by the time we're done with this podcast tonight
We're all in the same goddamn
boomers
boat.
and millennials are all struggling, and we need to stop fighting each other and working together to fix the problem. And you know what the problem is? Millionaires, billionaires, and trillionaires. These people are stealing money
Bosses.
out from under our
Everybody.
fingers.
No, and I mentioned to someone today, a boomer, that, the minimum wage ought to be about $22 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And their immediate response was, even for people who work at McDonald's? I said, absolutely, even for people who work at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Right. That's going to raise my cost. No, it really isn't. Right.
That leads into this joke.
All right. You got
Kids these days have it too easy, says the generation that could buy a house on the wage from an unskilled work at 21 years old.
Yeah.
Now, unskilled is one of those really great marketing terms.
Do you want me to give the definition? And because I know you got a thing with this.
Fire.
So let me give the definition real quick, and he's got a whole thing about this. So the definition of unskilled labor is a segment of the workforce associated with a limited skill set or minimal economic value for the work performed, generally characterized by lower educational attainment, such as a high school diploma, GED, or lack thereof, and results in smaller wages. Examples are cashiers, grocery clerks, and cleaners. Now, I will argue that all of these things you need to have some amount of skill to do. If you can't count,
I'm well versed in
if
that.
you don't know money, you cannot be a cashier. You
I agree.
cannot be a clerk if you don't know how to organize appropriately and understand how to read and all these other
The
things.
several telephonic devices you're going to have to use to order your thing and know the difference of what the case count is versus the individual item count. Yeah, no, it's actually a skill. And when you fuck it up, it's $50,000 worth of fucked up. Mm-hmm. And so the thing they dropped from that definition, because eugenics no longer all that popular in America out loud, except it's totally popular. You can totally find people talking about IQs and shit here. Anyway, so fucking idiots. No, it was designed for the imbeciles. It was designed for the mentally defective, and it was a way of keeping brown people down. And then we're slowly moving into the criminal class of white people. And then, it's the worst parts of fomented class warfare.
Oh, absolutely. And if you can create an underclass of workers, that level of salary will keep down all the others. Right?
Yeah,
and that's the whole point.
And George Carlin had a great point of why America doesn't deal with having poor
yeah.
people. Because we keep the poor around to scare the living shit out of the middle class. Because, there, but for the grace of God, go I.
Anybody seen a middle class recently?
No, the middle class is
But what there is-
disappearing, and people don't want to accept that because they want to. Okay, so what we have right now is a lot of people who think they're middle class.
We always did. 80%
they're
of
not.
households describe themselves as middle class when asked. That is insane. That's not how bell curves work.
No, and it's funny because when I was younger, because I had friends who were poorer than me, I used to have to describe my household as upper middle class.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't. When I look back and I look at how we lived and I look at how, what the standards are, because I've seen how rich people live, I've seen how wicked poor people live, and
Nobody
I've
bought
seen
your
how
ass a pony, huh?
in between live. And no, we were right dead center
You
middle
didn't get to have
class.
destination birthdays in other countries?
And there were years where I will honestly say we were probably on the lower end of the middle class scale. But and the only reason why is, and I think the only reason why that people used to say, well, no, you're more than middle class, is because my parents owned the same house. They bought it in like 1984 and they lived there, and they put a lot of money into this house to fix it up and make it better.
Yeah.
So they kept it up, and it's a beautiful house. So people would come over and see how crisp and clean my mom kept the house, and see how they would update it and all these things. And they would just assume that no, your parents have money. And I'm like, I didn't ride horses when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I wasn't in, ballerina class. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about?
So the disappearance of the middle class helps explain some of the things that millennials look at the boomers and say, what the fuck were you thinking? Is as the middle class came under greater and greater financial pressure, right? As we put every woman in America to work, because a single income was no longer enough. Is it a surprise?
Followed by rolling it onto credit cards.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a surprise that when somebody said, well, what we need to do is reduce the tax burden and reduce that this was an attractive proposition, and what they didn't realize was that the tax cuts didn't go to the middle class.
No.
The tax cuts went to the zillionaires.
No, they got enough of the people. Right, architects are a really good example, because we had talked about Reagan's cutting off the top tax bracket. That landed right in beginning, advanced doctors and architects, which is what the bosses hid behind, pretending, no, we're all architects. Sure, shut up. It's fine. When, no, they weren't.
No, that was part of the scam. Right, by collapsing the income brackets.
And people were thinking about what tax bracket they would retire into. They were going to get that good job at the...
which is bullshit, and
just,
they didn't.
Just let me throw this joke out here real quick, since it's directly related to this conversation, and I want to keep the jokes going. Baby boomers be making $170K a year and don't know how to rotate a PDF. So.
Yeah.
No, and that's... Again, I was fortunate enough to be in that.
You needed tech coming up.
In the group that did well through that. I don't need a tax cut. Right? There are folks below me who desperately need a tax cut. And there are folks above me who desperately need a tax increase, a substantial one. Right? America worked when the wealthy paid their share. And that's when we built the interstates. That's when the national parks were pristine. That's right. If you want to live in an actual modern country, then you're going to have to tax the rich. And they have spent 60 years getting out of their responsibility to support the country that made them rich.
No, when you look at these people's personal taxes, a lot of them for many, many years have not paid a dollar. Not a single cent. But then they have the nerve to come at the rest of us, the bottom 98% of America, and say, well, we need to cut more taxes so we can give you more money. Trickle down doesn't work, people. It never has, and it never will.
Food is bad. I mean,
the top 0.1% pay a lower tax rate than the average American because of these. Again, you can write off a $50,000 dressage horse. This is, what are you fucking talking about? This is ridiculous. So when we get people back to paying their fair share, I expect to pay slightly higher taxes, right? But the reason the boomers went along with the reduction in taxes was because they were being squeezed at every turn. Right? And they never turned on the rich and said, no, this is bullshit.
Well, and a lot of them were given this, if you keep working hard, eventually you'll be rich too, and then you don't want to have to pay these taxes. And no, it's never going to happen. Get over the dream. The American dream hasn't existed for a long fucking time.
America is a nation of temporarily embarrassed millionaires.
Right.
The whole 5 people that have ever fucking made the quote-unquote American dream...
that's
it's more than that, but if you still believe in the American dream, recognize that the single best predictor of what your salary will be is what your father's salary was.
Or your mom.
Or your
90s with it, kind of me.
No, that's cool.
Back you're saying that.
Watch it happen. I love that line.
All right, so here's another one. When we were kids, when we were kids, they told us, no, actually, I read this wrong. So as a millennial, when we were kids, they told us we could grow up to be anything. Now they laugh at us for trying. And this is sad and true. This is a fact because I myself have experienced this. And, you know, I know friends who have as well. It's very true that we strive to try to, you know, be these things that we want to be. And then boomers will be like, what the fuck are you doing? Get a real job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's always been true
Yeah.
of the elders speaking to the entrepreneurs. The problem is when you think about entrepreneurs, there are very few successful entrepreneurs. Very, very.
That's why they sold my whole generation on the idea that you should be an entrepreneur. If you are the most capitalist son of a bitch in the room, you might get to die
will work out
inside.
for you. Yeah.
By the way, if you're a true American, you are regularly purchasing from your local people who own businesses, local businesses. And since I know you don't do that, you might want to think about that.
Yep.
You want to talk about patriotism? Patriotism is going to that local
Well,
shop
and remember
owned by
that-
people who live in your community and buying their things.
Right.
It
And
might
that
cost
money
you more,
tends to stay in your
but
community.
it will stay in your community and it will do good things for you.
Well, and watch out on that cost you more, because as we have had greater and greater concentration of the businesses that support America,
right.
right? Many of those large businesses have pricing power, and they use it. So they can increase their profits simply by raising the price. And in many cases, you don't have any choice. Look no further than food deserts, right?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
a gallon of milk is $1 more in the food desert than it is 15 miles away.
Yeah.
And you sit there and go, it doesn't cost $1 more. They're just screwing people, right? So it's time to kind of stop some of that stuff.
No, but when I lived in Londonderry, I've talked before about living with a group of my friends, not in Londonderry, in New Hampshire. And so I lived with a bunch of my friends out in the woods in New Hampshire, and we had a convenience store that was locally owned by people who lived in the community. And yeah, it cost us an arm and a leg when we needed to pick up whatever we wanted to pick up, but we regularly spent money there to keep them there because you never know when you need something. And it was a family-owned business. They were good people, and they were always willing to help the community. And yes,
I get subs from the same place every time I'm in New England. I have driven across more than one state to get subs from them.
Yep.
Yeah, no, this is
I
the same
understand your
type
pain.
of this is the same type of place. Yeah, they did the same type of thing.
So I've got a long one because I think it's important. And so a Gen Z and a Boomer walk into a bar and they sit down. The Gen Z kid orders from the gluten-free vegan menu, and the Boomer orders a T-bone steak. And they start chatting, and the Gen Z kid says that social justice issues are the biggest problem facing the world, and that white supremacist patriarchy is a plague on society. The Boomer waves this off and said kids these days are just too sensitive, and that he fought for civil rights in the 60s. Oh, wait, I think I've actually said that.
You actually have a better story than most people
Yes,
want to play
you
that
do.
game.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's correctly my father's story because he's okay.
He's the one who knew there was shotguns
And we'll
in the
come
game.
back and so you millennials are always complaining that we ran up trillions of dollars in debt for you. Why can't you just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps? I mean, after all, we pulled ourselves up by your bootstraps. So they go back and forth on this for a while, and finally the Gen Z kid says, look, we're just not going to settle this. We're never going to see eye to eye. You're too old and out of touch, and I'm too young and inexperienced. What we need to do is ask a millennial with a PhD in sociology,
So this
And
is
the Boomer says, that's a great idea. Hey, bartender, come here.
So is this Gen Z and Boomer talking rather than
The internet can't actually tell the difference between the two anymore.
Yeah.
Because we're slowly changing millennial into an age bracket
Yep.
that, as opposed to like a cohort. Because we used to be Generation Y, which is really fun. If you get bored, you should look it up sometime on the internet.
Yeah, no, I found a lot of these jokes said Gen Y on them, and I had to change it to millennial.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gen Y and millennial are the same thing. They're
Look at
interchangeable.
back when they thought there was a future. Look at the stuff they wrote about Gen Y. So look at the stuff pre-2000. So
Yeah.
right around the time Gen Y started graduating high school in
Yep.
numbers.
No, they changed it because I remember when
Yes.
I was a kid, we were talking about being Generation Y, and I was all about it because my brother was Gen X. So I was like, yeah, Gen Y, I'm all about this, right? And then all of a sudden I was called a millennial, and I was like, what are you talking about? I'm
Part of
Generation
that's
Y.
fudging birth rate, and part of that's
If they want to
trying to-
lump you all together because you're always fucking complaining.
well, and trying to bracket it correctly for when computers came into the thing.
I got a good one for what you just said.
All right,
Here's my
let's hear it.
response. Baby boomers, the youth of today is so disrespectful. Also, baby boomers, I asked for a burger with only ketchup, but you didn't put pickles on it, and I like pickles, so I'm going to scream at you until your manager offers me a coupon for a free large coffee. Arr.
Yeah, don't be that customer.
Don't be a Karen, folks.
Oh my God. You know, I'm sorry. That's not me. I'm the one.
No.
Oh yeah.
The only reason.
Except for that one time that you went to go get your shot, and or you went to the doctor, and you were having
yeah.
trouble, and then you were rude to the lady, and then you felt bad about it, but you couldn't take it back because she was gone.
No, that's their computer infrastructure. No, if I go,
Yeah, now we're both dying.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Tuberculosis Nightlife.
right, feel the burn. Anyway, no, when I go to a fast food restaurant, I know I'm going to eat whatever the hell they give me. I'm not going to complain.
I've eaten stuff
Right.
I didn't order. Like, here's buffalo chicken fingers. Not at all the chicken sandwich I wanted, but you know what? I'm here because it's 3 a.m. at Denny's food. Sure.
Yeah, whatever.
I
And
won't mind throwing this up later.
Yep. I have ever driven back when they didn't give me everything.
Yes.
And that annoys me.
I've had
But-
a lot of
know.
issues with that recently.
A little bit. Check your orders. The internet.
Yep.
You know.
No, and I'm sorry, I have been rude. Because I have sat at the window and checked my order, and they say, sir, we need you to move along. And my response was, I will move along when I am absolutely confident that you have given me what I ordered, because I have enough experience with you to know that that's a damned rare occurrence. Shut up.
Honestly, as somebody who's worked fast food, it annoys like, I don't care if you come through again, I'll give you whatever you say we're missing. But if you sit there, we have timers.
Yeah.
They
Well.
fucking time us.
Yes.
So what if you want people to respect you and to not be shitty about it and to not ask
have
you to
to tell 'em.
move, you have to go and park, okay, check your order, then pull back around. And
I have a better idea.
Person taking damage has to make a noise.
And if the order is wrong and you don't want to wait in line again, go inside, because
That-
the line inside is always shorter.
Yeah,
And if
inside,
you
that's
go
fine.
inside, they will handle it like instantly.
Yep.
So,
So I have a different solution to that, which is if you're on a timer, make sure my order's right.
I wouldn't start fights with people who
No.
have an entire building full of cleaning chemicals and your food.
So
yeah, don't be shitty.
But the person who's taking damage from the timers might want to make that point, because as things get worse, the incivility is only going to climb.
When I worked at Dunkin' Donuts years ago, we used to have, like, the cops would come through and check on us and stuff. By the way, cops don't go for donuts. You know what they go for? Bagels and coffee. That's their thing. But anyway,
that's New England cops.
yeah, fair.
Okay.
But anyway, so when he would come through and they gave us this timer,
Yeah.
we would tell him, like, you can't sit here so we can chat. And he'd pull forward so the timer would shut off, and then he'd back up, and then we'd chat with
Oh,
him.
I love it.
So, you know, if there's nobody else in line, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, just pull off the thing,
Yeah.
because it's literally set in the ground, and it waits until the car moves. So,
No, it's all the nonsense. The
yeah.
dumbest thing I heard was fast food when they were talking about how they were going to do centralized located. This is out of the Walmart fucking manual. They were going to do centralized ordering with like computers and people in Oklahoma or wherever working, the drive up in the Bronx. Oh yeah, no, that's like, I don't know who sold them this bill of goods on we're going to do this computer nonsense, because
Oh my God.
oh yeah, I've never tried that level of complex. I've just tried making like much easier things work, and there's no way you're going to keep that up.
Oh yeah.
all right, we got the jokes still coming, so I got another one for you.
Excellent.
Boomers invent free love. Also, boomers oppose gay marriage. So, I had to look this up because I was like, I don't know, this doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
And I looked it up, and actually in 2015 there was a study done. Millennials support gay marriage at 73%
Yeah.
versus boomers at only 45%. That's left them 50% of boomers accept gay marriage.
Yeah.
So that's problematic,
Yeah, no,
and more problematic than I thought. Like, I honestly thought that this was not going to be anything close to that.
If we dug down, we're going to find out that question has a slant. No, it's actually one of the
But
big.
this was also back in 2015. The numbers might have changed. Yeah.
Not meaningfully in the meantime, since I'm going to talk about the 90s. When
Okay.
the boomers' big claim to fame is all of the LGBT characters on TV that weren't done as a stunt character.
True.
That weren't just like, oh, look, we made a gay one. All of the stereotypes we could fit on one human. That's
All right, it's time for our lightning round. Since I had more
Feel the burn.
jokes, we're just gonna scroll through them real quick, and then we have a bunch of comments to
Are we
have.
gonna laugh?
Some of them are funny.
Rock and roll.
Okay. Boomer. Nothing in life is free. Also, Boomer wants to pay you an experience, or in some cases, sunshine. Apparently.
Yeah.
Hashtag how to confuse a millennial. Tell them mental health is important while they run between 3 part-time jobs. Forrest Gump is damn near 3 hours of baby boomers doing what they claim to hate about millennials. That is aggressively true.
Yeah.
Baby boomer, you know, kids don't know how hard we had it. Everyone had to use the library to get information, and we didn't have cell phones. Millennials, literally everyone I know my age wants to die. But okay. Boomers. Boomers will call us special snowflakes for protesting and then post a 10-paragraph review on a restaurant because they had to wait an extra 10 minutes for their food. This is fucking true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Baby boomer Halloween costume. Go trick-or-treating early. Take all the candy. Insist you earned that candy. Then complain about millennials. Millennials, I work 3 jobs and still don't make enough to live comfortably or save for the future. Baby boomer. Well, then why don't you have 4 jobs?
Yep.
All right. And that was my lightning round. I have a bunch more that were really fun.
All of
but
those are the same.
yeah.
Right.
They're all very similar jokes, yeah.
Well, and they're all cruel in a very specific way.
Uh-huh.
Right? That, you know, the reason you're not doing well is because you don't deserve to. And that was what was being put out. And it's not true. Because you're not doing well because the damn society changed to make sure that you didn't do well. And at some point, we need to fix that. Sooner the better.
Agreed.
Right?
No,
So-
and the thing I found interesting about all of this is the vast majority of this fight, the part that really made internet noise when Channel 4 started talking about it, was in the middle of what the far right, or not the far right, let's call them the we fascists in America, now refer to as the meme war.
Yeah.
When you had everybody playing games with memes, because we had just found out memes short circuit your brain. You take in memes the same way you take in something told to you by a direct family member. It is absolutely trusted data. It is fully interpreted before it is critically analyzed.
Well, and it's especially effective if it's funny from your perspective.
Yes.
Right?
It reinforces.
So the boomers non-critically accepted all of the
Avocado toast
amusing
and-
criticisms of the millennials. And at some point, and I think the reason, because I can remember laughing at millennial
Yeah,
jokes.
they were
And
funny.
again, it wasn't, first they were funny. And second, they didn't seem hurtful.
Yeah.
Right? It was a joke. Right? And then after you've seen enough of those, you realize this is not a joke. This is a concerted campaign to explain to you that millennials don't deserve to be successful because they aren't working.
They chose
And
the wrong time to be
bullshit.
born.
Trying to hold
Yeah.
us
Fuck
down,
'em.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, and the one
This
that
is the generation of grandkids who the debt's gonna come due on, I guess.
Yeah, no, and the one that really like struck a chord with me was the literally everyone I know my age wants to die. And I'm not gonna lie, this really hit me because I had to go back and think through my head of everyone my age and say, no, not a single one of them has not had a point in their life where they were excessively depressed to the point of suicidal thoughts or tendencies, or actually tried to kill themselves. And whoa, that is a huge statement. And can you say the same about your boomer friends?
No.
No, but they were also grew up in an entirely different environment. We have been advertised at a rate that no other
That's
previous
true.
human
No,
has
that's
ever.
that's fair.
As much as there's old jokes about boomers sitting in front of the old TVs, so there's like a little blast shadow behind them,
Right.
which that's cute and.
But it's not true.
No.
I think the greatest generation did that, right?
Was that
And
the
that's
silent
part of the-
generation?
No, the World War II veterans.
Okay.
As they aged, they sat down in front of the television.
Yeah.
And part of that was television wasn't around when they were young,
Right.
right?
This was some of that new
And so
fancy
it was-
freedom they got.
Right.
Well, it was especially addictive to people who hadn't had it when they were growing up. I think the boomer version of that, I suspect, is death scrolling.
Yeah, probably.
Because I find myself tending to do that.
Well, and for us older millennials, because the problem with the millennial generation is that some of us were on the cusp, right? Like me and Asshole grew up in a time where we remember, old school computers and stuff like
Dial-up
that. And
internet, when you could before the internet.
well, and before we even had dial-up internet, and when dial-up internet was a new and fun thing, and you got those little AOL things in the mail. So if your parents, said you couldn't use the internet, I would get my 10 hours monthly for free, and they would never know about it.
Which is an incredibly intimate relationship with the internet, right? That you and the internet are like
We grew up
secret
together.
pen pals.
Yeah.
Right, the internet was largely your chance to learn all the stuff they didn't want you to know once those parts came online. But yeah.
But some of these younger millennials didn't experience that changeover. So that's where millennials there's some infighting between millennials themselves, because we're like, hey, I remember when cell phones were bricks and
that's what I noticed looking these up is you also get a lot of Gen Z creep. When
a lot of Gen Z.
Part of that is they're having more interactions.
Right.
Because household dynamics are changing. A huge number of houses now have one grandparent present, either as head of household or whatever, but in the room, which is really, then we're down to family dynamics. So, no, the other thing, one of the jokes I liked, in fact, involved Gen Z. It was the Gen X. It's the only one that had Gen X, which is, again, my conspiracy bit at the end. So it's Gen X, a boomer, and a millennial sitting there talking, and Gen Z goes, well, why didn't you listen to my plan? And all of them look over and go, because your plan involved a Tide Pod, jumper cables, and a toaster strudel.
That is fair.
Like, comment, and subscribe for more of us just talking about all kinds of random shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, yeah.
So, my Generation X conspiracy theory tinfoil hat moment. They don't show up in a lot of these jokes. And I think part of that is sort of the politics of generational bumping. Trying to see where the wedge issues are, right? One of the retirement plans that says Social Security won't change for anyone 47 and a half and older, right? And just seeing, is that the right number? Can we cut everyone else's benefits? So part of that being, right, we have seen some true masters of the politics of this in the last couple of cycles, right? That people who understand, there's two kinds of pinball players in the world. There's people who play pinball and enjoy the buttons, and there's people who know why that machine has a tilt sensor. And they were bumping into whole blocks to see where the wedge issues could be put. So some of the jokes about the computer stuff was mean in a way. And it was funny because it's the new version of your clocks, or your VCR is always blinking 12. But it was also designed so they wouldn't talk more. Right, the 6 viruses and wire half of your retirement to a Nigerian prince. Right, that it overdrove its point.
Right.
So, no, I thought it was interesting that Gen X didn't get targeted in the same way. And you made a good point that they came up at just the time to take a bunch of jobs for people that could retire.
From boomers that could retire.
Yeah.
Successful.
And so
boomers.
everyone moved up a slot, and there was a slot.
Lucky boomers. And that's part of damn it makes me so angry. I talk to other boomers and they're saying, well, I worked hard. Of course you worked hard. right?
But they
So
all-
did all those other folks who can't afford to retire,
Yeah.
right? If you look back over your life, you're going to find a bunch of places where you just got damn lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
you
in
were in
40
the right
hours-
place at the right time.
When I was young, I remember the argument being a lot. Well, the really rich kids dedicated like 60 and 80 hours a week to jobs, and that's cool. But a lot of that was at one place, right? I think there's a whole extra layer of stress when you start making part-time jobs the thing, or the gig economy.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. That's, and all it is a desire not to pay your benefits.
Well, and to offload the cost of business.
No, and
onto
what
the
they
worker.
did was they took a 40-hour work week and they turned it into a 32-hour work week, and they called it part-time.
Yep.
When it's only literally one shift less.
Yep.
So now you have people working 2 and 3 of these part-time
Yeah.
jobs, and when you add those numbers together, you are hitting like 96 hours. That's a lot of time.
Okay. So, again, I was insanely lucky in a number of cases. But there were times in my life, including a 6-month period, where I worked 80 hours a week, documented,
Yeah.
right? Was that something special about me? No, all of us did. Because we had something we were interested in and we were working hard on, and we had a time limit,
Yeah.
right? If we hadn't had a time limit, we'd have gone down to 60 hours a week. Right? We were literally at the point where you had to be really careful because you were prone to make mistakes that would erase 20 or 30 hours of work.
Right.
And it was the
But
most
these were big
stressful
deals
period of
for
my
the people
life.
you were working for, right?
They were big deals for us.
Cool. And I'm saying that's the moment when the disconnect begins. Here's this thing that keeps Corporation X alive. The people that made that happen didn't get let's have a money fight kinds of bonuses.
No, they didn't.
And that's the kind of Herculean effort we're talking about.
True. No,
That it was buildings full of people working flat out,
right.
all of them very hard at work.
Yeah,
And
and
thinking-
who did not get, as you say, didn't get the equity that they should have, right?
Just in terms of coming back to your point of, right, the boomers should be more furious than anyone else in the room.
Uh-huh.
Because I knew growing up, there was something structurally wrong. And I wasn't sure what, and it took a lifetime of learning about history and a bunch of other things to think I have a pretty good argument. But it's odd and requires work. And it's just sad that the boomers, have been sold this list of grievances to take out on someone who had even less to do with it.
Oh, I know. And that's, again, the thing we should be saying to the boomers is you were the one who agreed to these idiotic tax cuts that benefited literally no one but the rich, right? You got the crumbs,
Yeah.
and the ultra rich got. And
we'll get you some
the same
images
with
to show
Donald
numbers.
Trump's middle class tax cut, where 90% of the benefit went to those who make more than $400,000 a year.
Yeah, that's not middle class.
That's not middle class.
No.
That is, if you ask
was it?
2015 Republican leadership, everyone said it. Reince Priebus has said
Yeah,
it.
it's ridiculous.
Mitt Romney said it.
Yeah,
No,
and
and
that's well into the upper class.
yeah.
Well, as we discussed, that actually puts you in the top 1%.
1%, yeah.
If you're
Yeah,
making
400,000 a year
400
puts you in the
I think
top
it was
1%.
450 or something, but we talked about that before. You can go back and check out
Mathematically
the numbers.
incapable of being the middle class.
Right.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah, you
it's-
can't be in the top 1% and be middle class. It's not how life
Hey,
works.
if I had to push 80% of the kids out of the middle class and they're like, yeah, I'm middle class. No, you just have walls. Shut up. You don't get to measure that because some boss will hear you and be like, oh, that's the definition. The man beast likes walls. Awesome.
Yeah. Now doors are upper class.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously.
Hey, don't forget, they're gonna throw some beanbag chairs your way. So
Oh, yeah.
Right.
you'll
No,
have
that was
beanbag
the-
chairs inside your walls.
You
Well,
remember
and
how
if
they
you're
used
in
to
the upper 10%, they'll give you a roof.
You remember
Oh,
they used to
maybe.
talk about
If you're
Google and
lucky.
YouTube, or not YouTube, maybe YouTube, of all of the you could sleep at work and stuff and all these things. Oh, Facebook was recently talking about the cafeteria where you wouldn't see, you could just buy things. You didn't have to bother with paying for it because they'll just scan your phone and take it out of your paycheck before you even notice it. And oh yeah, that's what you need, a way for humans to take money they don't even have yet.
Yeah.
No, that was one of the scary things suggested when a major .com company bought a grocery store. Was this could lead to a future where there aren't prices on the shelves because maybe you're a Super Double Prime member or a Super whatever their loyalty program is.
Well,
and
and-
everybody's prices are a little different. And
Yeah, Amazon's already started doing that, where they will give you prices based on what you've paid before,
yes.
which is ridiculous. They're anyway.
Go
so-
gadget VPNs.
Anyway, we are getting off topic.
Yes.
Basically, we're gonna sum this all up for you right now. Okay, boomers and millennials are in the exact same place.
Absolutely.
We're both fucked. As are Gen Xers, and Gen Zers already understand they're fucked, so they already don't care. They're just like, fuck it all, yellow.
I cannot wait because in like 4.5 minutes they're all going to be over 20 whatever,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden marketing is not going to care about them as much, and I feel bad for them. But
No,
I'm not-
they're going to be sad about that. But anyway, our point is that what we really need to do, and this is what we like to push a lot on this show because it's true, we need to come together as Americans, as patriots, and as human fucking beings that deserve to live with, rights and the ability to provide for
And
our
a living
families.
wage and affordable health care.
Right.
All the rest of the stuff that the trillionaires will tell you, oh, you don't need those things. That's un-American. That's communist.
Yeah.
That's just the government getting
It's
between you and your boss.
socialist. Yep, it's socialism and it needs to stop. No, what it is it's reality, and it's the fact that, we need to come together and love each other. Okay?
Socialism is what they called Social Security. Socialism is what they called Medicare. Socialism is what they called the interstate system. Right? They've been using that scare word since forever.
They'd have
And
called it
it's kinda-
socialism when it was outside if they knew what it meant.
If you go back far enough, you'll find out that people resisted having metropolitan water systems. They resisted having fire departments. With the same kind of, this is just, socialism, communism.
That's just their trick. They're going to put fluoride in the waters.
Yeah.
No, and we will definitely continue this
Liquid
discussion. But yeah, no, stop and think before you make a cruel or unknowledgeable joke, right? So make sure you understand where this is coming from, because a lot of this is coming from millionaires who have spent lots of money to make you believe things that aren't true.
They're trying to make you focus on somebody else as being the problem rather than the fact that they're not paying taxes.
That they're the problem, right?
Absolutely.
And
They
this is
have
what it
given
is.
up on society.
Is they are redirecting your anger and your fear and your hatred to the wrong place, and you need to redirect it back where it belongs, at that top 1%. They're all fucking you. All right, so we love you all. Thank you for hanging out with us. We know this was a long one, but we hope you appreciated it, and we'll see you tomorrow night on Boomer
Like,
Rex Tonight.
comment, subscribe.
Extra like, comment, and
Feel the burn.
Nachos.